pitching on the first meeting, please just use your ears and one mouth. Start asking some questions, being emotionally intelligent enough. And even a simple thing like this, really great to have some time together. We've both really got lots going on. What will make the next 30 minutes useful for you? What prompted you to want to open up this conversation and have this meeting? And I can then make sure I share with you something that's relevant to you that'll make it valuable for you. So to me, the first meeting is always about finding out more, but also being prepared to go the other way. So I will always have that element of emotional intelligence. I may not be right for you. We may not be right for you. This is exploratory. We're opening up some options. If it turns out that we offer A and you need A, hey, let's have a conversation. But let's just see where we both are.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by James White. James is a sales mentor, trainer, business owner, all-round good egg who will support people in business, James, I'd say, because you gave me such a long list, I've forgotten half of them. But really, look, you get involved, don't you, to help people be successful? I think that's
great to see Fred. And look, from my perspective, I think I've spent the last, as I reached 39 years being in sales and loving what I've done. But as I decided a few years ago, now it's time to actually also share some of that knowledge and experience and help other people become successful. So working with small businesses is one of my real passion, because those are the ones that really need it. But if especially those that sell services to other businesses, helping them win deals, helping them bring money into the till, because when the tills are ringing, everyone feels good, right?
Yeah, that's it. And you have so many different ways in which you can support in that, which we'll drop some links later to the various things. I'm sure you'll mention them as we go through.
Yeah, well, I've had a podcast for the same as yourself for a while, but I've been, my passion has been sharing videos on YouTube for the last 5-6 years. There's 700 videos there. There's lots of free resources. I'm a big believer in I'll give as much material as free to people where I can, so that they can take those elements on board and get, I genuinely, and I say it with the most wholehearted approach, I want them to be successful. I think, and the main reason being because when I've gone through my most stressful times as a business owner, and I went through a number of those, the stress of being a business owner when you don't have money coming in is shit. And when whether it's your own business or whether it's your business you work within, when things aren't going right, you feel stressed, you feel crap, you don't give your best time to your loved ones. So my big mission in the world is I want to help people get sales results consistently so they can live their best lives, have better happy marriages, better time with their kids, spend time with loved ones in a better way. Because when you're successful, you enjoy those times better. So that's simply what I do, and that's the outcome of what I do. And I think that comes from in business, you selling more and the till's ringing. As a salesperson, it comes from you winning, being more successful, you feel happier. Everyone's a winner then. So that's ultimately what I do it for. So
no, I get it. Very fulfilling to do that. You see people have a better life. I'm with you on that, mate. With you on it. So today, so many topics we could go down. Probably will. I'll try and keep reasonably structured on this. But we were sort of just pinging some messages back and forth, weren't we, about emotional intelligence, about EQ.
Yeah.
And I think you said something along the lines of, I reckon this is going to get even more important.
Yep.
And now I would say it's already pretty bloody important. But you're going, it's even more important. I'm like, oh, this is a goodie. I think we need to record on this. So emotional intelligence, first though, 2 questions at once, bad skills. What is it? And then why are you seeing it become, or you think it's going to become more important?
Okay, cool. Yeah. So there's a video on my YouTube channel called Emotional Sales Intelligence. So Daniel Goleman, who created emotional intelligence, talked about 5 characteristics of people. And it's really interesting, actually. There's a great quote I read somewhere that Sundar Pichai, who's Google's CEO, was appointed to become Google's CEO, not because he was the cleverest person, but because he showed the best EQ. So, senior execs are generally appointed, not because they're the boffin, but they can harness the power of the team. So Daniel Goleman talked around 5 elements around emotional intelligence that are self-awareness, the ability to obviously be aware of your situation, surroundings, and what's going on, self-control or emotional control or self-control or whatever you want to call it in that respect, motivation, socialization, and empathy. And those 5 skills or characteristics or whatever else you like, I guess I talk to people a lot about how in sales, I think they are probably the 5 most important skills to have as a salesperson. And the reason I think it's going to become more important in the next few years is we're moving into an era where AI and robots are doing salespeople's jobs. And the reality is, in the next few years, I think we're going to see a big, I wouldn't say division, but we're going to see quite a lot of AI versus salespeople type conversations because of where AI is going and some of the stuff you see. And I think the distinguishable factor that I still believe, and I could be wrong, there's scientists around the world working on this stuff somewhere, but I don't think for a few years a robot will be able to show what a human can in terms of emotional intelligence for a little while. And therefore that gives us in sales and business an opportunity for the next 2 or 3 years. I don't know how long it'll take to stay ahead of that curve and be human in our sales approach. And that's where I think those with EQ, with high EQ in all those 5 areas will win compared to very average salespeople who I think will be replaced.
Yeah. No, it's interesting what you say about successful people being higher in EQ than IQ. I've read similar sort of research on that, and and this isn't soft stuff, is it? I mean, US Air Force train people in emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Google do. You just said that, but this is stuff which has been linked back to success. So yeah, and of course, sales, this human element to it. We hear this bandied around a little bit. Should we break down what that human element then? What is it, and what does that bring to the party, and why that ain't going away?
Yeah, and to me, it's really. I meet and speak to lots of business owners, and I speak to, and by the way, lots of business owners tend to be. So if I look at, like, let's take disc profiling and take the 4 types of people that exist there, and there's different types of examples, but let's take disc with dominant, influential, conscientious, and steady. A lot of business owners tend to be sort of what I would call quite dominant types. Okay, reds or blues. Accountants, a lot of accountants think to be quite conscientious, sort of quite blue type people. And people will sometimes say to me, "Oh, the prospect didn't get back to me, or they didn't reply back to my email, or didn't reply back to my proposal. Well, I don't know what I did wrong." And I literally look to them sometimes and say, and apologies if I get this what I do. I say, I look in the fucking mirror, right? Because do you know what, right? What you did wrong was you didn't have the emotional intelligence when that person was basically talking to you to go, I don't think they're tuned into me. I don't think there's something not quite right here. I think the conversation is not going quite the way I need it to. I need to deal with this now rather than carry on and be and if I, and not just business owners, but if I had a pound for the amount of salespeople who do not pick up on the signals and the signs that we see and around the way in which we work from a sales perspective, then I would be a trillionaire. And I honestly believe it's the most important factor in any sales deal, and that's the ability to spot and to be aware of what's going on in the conversation, in the discussion, what's happening, and then adjust your behavior accordingly. And I think that's why I mean it's the critical factor in selling. And those that have it get it and know how to adjust and change. Those that don't end up losing and tend to, in many cases, fail. And that's what I want to try and avoid. And that's what I believe you have to change. If you're in that situation all the time, you got to look and say there's a reason why. And sometimes business owners get there by force, because not by force is the wrong word, but by force of nature. They're driven. They're so committed to it, but they then struggle when they get their teams to do the same thing and it doesn't work.
Yeah. So I'm with you on that. And part of me wants to be, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go this way. So robots can do that. But then I realized that what I'm saying is robots can help you identify, but I'm not sure how much they can actually help you in the implementation of said communication style with another human being.
Correct. And let's take an example where, look, there's some really good AI robot tools at the moment that are dealing with inbound leads. Okay. So let's say taking an inbound leads, I think is, fair enough. There's an inbound lead. I don't think those robots are quite as successful with outbound activity at the moment, but let's take an inbound lead. So what would I look for as a sales trainer and a mentor and a coach in a lead? I would look for the inference of tone. Okay. So when someone's having a conversation, and funny enough, I listened to one of my customers the other day. They sent me a recording of a conversation they had with a client and with a prospect, sorry. And they basically, the conversation was they were trying to have, and in fact, I could hear it in the first call. The guy, I won't say his name, picked up the phone and said, "Oh, is so and so there? Let's speak to so and so." "Oh, hi, it's so and so speaking." And the guy's tone was quite a bit stern. But he then found out who it was that was speaking to. "Oh, hi, how you doing?" Okay. And that tonality changed quite quickly. And when we went through the rest of the conversation, it was because they wanted to speak to this company and the client of mine because they'd heard good things about them and were key. And the conversation was much more driven on "Oh, this is great." Now, that inflection of tone between stern initially and then someone that's then gone, "Oh, great." Now, me as a salesperson, what do I do in that situation? Again, go back to my human versus robot. I don't think right now a robot, and it might be able to in time, can then go, "I spot the difference," and affect the conversation slightly around that. And that's not mean to say that you can be then lax and lazy and go, "Oh yeah, great mate, great to speak to you." But what I would do is, knowing that person was keen to speak to me, I would then have in the back of my mind and be adaptable and be self-aware that, okay, I think there's potentially a good opportunity to do something here. Let's still be, supportive and helpful and, engaged in that process. And if I do that, it's going to increase my chances even more of success. And that's what I mean by the ability to be able to spot those things.
Yeah, and that was the bit where when I corrected myself into the implementation bit. I mean, look, you can understand someone's personality style before you've even met them, which is weird to even say that. Can you imagine saying that like 10 years ago when we were like doing training? But yeah, crystal nose, semantic, something like that. This person is yellow, red, green, blue, whatever. Right, adjust like this. Okay. But what you're saying is, yes, you go in, you've got your game plan. It's a yellow person. You're upbeat. You're going there. You're going to let them talk. Oh, the human goes, "Today's not the day for that. Something's up. Come back. Don't do that now." Just because script says this is what you should do and this is how you engage. Don't batter on doing this, which the robot probably would. The human goes, "Something's off. This guy ain't right."
Correct.
Ditch plan. Yeah.
And look, the benefit about robots is you can program them to do other things. So there'll probably be a robot in time and does calling that has 1,000 different, variations that can do that. And in time they might pick that up. But interesting enough, when you're engaging with people, especially in a cold outreach, and as you know, I've got a business that does that outreach, yourself, and I train my team to do this. Sometimes people in those conversations don't say a lot, right? They don't say much at all. They don't give away a lot. So therefore, you've got to be really clever at being able to decipher and work through what is being said and what's not being said. And that's the bit for me around that, having that ability to just spot and to see the signals and see the signs, I think is what makes us human beings, right? That's how we're successful and been successful for years. And I think that will still carry on for a number of years. But those salespeople that don't see that aren't self-aware, that don't have those emotional sales intelligence skills, I think will in time be replaced by the robot. Because if you don't see it and the robot can do what you do, but the robot doesn't need 25 days holiday and the robot doesn't need moaning about pay rise and all this sort of stuff, and the robot doesn't get moaned at when they do 40 calls and then think, "Oh, I don't want to do any more calls today," or the robot isn't motivated because they want to go on and buy a brand new car or whatever, you're going to be replaced, right? And that's a bit for me around where I'm telling my team in Go for Resourcing is there'll be a big camp. There'll be camp over here that will be robotic, automatic, structure, make thousands and thousands of calls, dial, automatic turbo dial, and bang, 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 bang. Or there'll be a focus group there'll be a group that's more human in their approach to, especially to win new business and to convert cold. And I'm banking on the human side rather than the automation AI can do some stuff and can prepare stuff. But when it comes to the human to human conversation, that's where I'm backing at the moment.
Interesting what you said about prepare, because you can be an extremely well prepared human now, can't you? You can use your AI to get right up to speed and probably as close to ever as we've been inside somebody else's head. Yeah, by sort of avatar and all that stuff. But then just take that's your prep, and now apply it in that moment realistically with the person.
But even in some of those preps tools as well also don't always quite get it right though. So I was with a client of mine where I've been doing some helping them with their sales team while they're put a new sales director, and we've helped them put that in place. And I was with a client meeting one of their sales teams about 4 weeks ago, and we were meeting with a CEO of a firm, a legal firm actually, And all the indications were that this person was a, let's call it from a DISC perspective, style, more sort of C, so steadiness. Really, you'd expect them to be in that lawyer by trade, quite cautious, all those other things. The person that came into the meeting was the complete opposite, right? Was as yellow as your shirt, Fred, right?
Yeah, proper yellow today.
And literally was very engaging, very supportive and helpful in that way. So now the good thing is that the salesperson that I've trained had the ability then to react and respond in the right way. But if they're not careful, and that's what I mean by being self-aware, being self-aware to be able to pick that up and then having the self-control to go, okay, I need to be think and approach things differently and not be, what I thought I was going to be, and be adaptable within that process. And I think those elements then came into the conversation. So now that discussion is going on, they'll do some good business together because that person was able to adapt to the person, and going back to the fifth, able to build relationships, so socialization. But the other thing I talk about, especially at senior level, when you sell into sort of C-suites, which is where I help a lot of organizations with, I said to the sales guy, I said, your job is to be in the shoes of that CEO right now, okay? And wherever they come in, what's going on? They've got 600 people in their company. They've got a lot of shit going on. Your job is to be in their shoes. It's hard because most salespeople go, I can't be in their shoes. I've never been the CEO of a company and run a company. But that's your job, is to think, okay, what might be my challenges? What might be their issues? What might be vexing them, causing them problems, causing them stress? Be empathetic to that person's world. And again, you're going to put yourself in a better position. And again, I don't think a robot can do that.
It can help you. I would say it can help you, because you can work with the robot to say, you are the CEO of this company. Tell me about your pains. Tell me about your pressures. Tell me about.
It can help you, but it can't do that.
It can't do that. No, it's not going to be 100% right. It's not that person. But it's got a pretty good idea. If you're a salesperson who's never, ever been in that position and don't really know anybody in that, at least it's going to give you a leg up to moving towards it.
It is. I'm not doubting that. But I think if I was to go onto any AI robot now and say, what does the CEO of a 600-person, law firm, have as a concern right now, would be the things that comes back be the same as what that guy shared with us and what I knew would be his challenges. Okay. And the answers to that is, in some cases, we know, and here's the reason why, because any CEO that tells you that they're not doing it for personal reasons is lying. Okay. So most CEOs, even if it's their own business, there's still something around the way in which that they're portrayed and viewed as a result of it. And I, in that meeting, and I won't go into the details, but was able to see through the way in which certain words were inflected and said what actually his real challenges were. And it was quite clear at the end of it that it wasn't the stuff that you would have naturally assumed from being the CEO of that size company.
Yeah. To use I think you can use the sort of, let's call it generic prep, to earn the right to get into the conversation, to go a little bit deeper, because you've got to show them that yes, what's going on in your world. Oh, okay, I am going to give you a bit more time, because you're not trying to open a brochure and flog me some stuff and completely miss the point. I'll carry on talking, and then the sales skill, the emotional intelligence, same. You're now going a bit deeper, and that's where, okay, I will tell you more, because I think you're worth it.
Yeah.
I don't think you're worth it. I think it's worth my time to share it with you.
Yeah, and also because you get it, but you also get what's really driving their agenda, right? And this is the thing around people have around selling at a senior level. I mean, they go to the toilet the same as you, they drink water the same as you, they sleep in the same way as you do, they go to the gym in the same way as you do. They're normal people. It's just they've got a different set of agenda than what you think. And actually your job is to be in their shoes and to think what they're thinking. And then when you meet those people and engage with those people, react accordingly. Now, if that person had been the archetypical CEO of that organization, okay, and had been which is what we expect it to be, the quite hard, right? What is it? What do you want? Let's get to the nuts and bolts of the conversation. Time's precious. Then that salesperson then got to react accordingly based on that, rather than the way in which the meeting had gone, which was a slightly different way. And again, it's that adaptability and that ability to be self-aware and react that I think is the big difference as well.
Agreed. No. So empathy then. I mean, that's a word that you used early on in the thing. We talk a lot about this in sales, and empathizing. So is it a skill? Is empathy a skill, would you say?
Great question. Yes. The honest answer is it a skill or a characteristic? Look, I think it's definitely something that can be taught and learned if people want to understand to do it better, which therefore to me means the skill.
It's a skill then, yeah. Let's go with that definition. We'll call it a skill, because there's things that you and I would do to help people be more empathetic. It helps if you're already empathetic.
Correct. Exactly. But it helps if you are. Okay, giving you another example. I was with another client recently where the salesperson had a favor from an internal person. And I said to them, make sure you drop a box of brownies or whatever else, or something, a box of donuts, a box of biscuits, whatever, £2, £3 on that person's desk next week, and just say thanks for helping you out. They're like, oh, I don't know, why should I do that? I said, because you're saying it from your perspective. You think that's their job. It's not. It is their job, but it's not their job. They don't have to do that to help you. You put in that in a little card, which costs you £3 as a salesperson, right? But that says, just want to say huge thanks. I know you've got a lot on and pressures in your own role. So for you to make the time to help me and do this was really appreciated. I'm really grateful. I'll let you know what happens, and I'll make sure I share the story of how you've helped me when we do this. Does two things for that person. A, it makes them feel great. It makes them feel that they're going to commit to it again, which is, and helps you in the future. If you want to be selfish about it, it's going to help you in the future. But more importantly, it also makes that person feel like that they've added value into the process, and it's going to help them learn and develop as a result of that. And I think those small, and it's going to, my dad always used to say to me, oil the wheels of motion, right? And he was in sales. He was where I learned a lot of my, if you oil the wheels of motion, suddenly you've got supporters and people on your side to help you rather than people that don't want to help you. And I see a lot of salespeople suddenly that will just do what they want and shaft the people around them and not give a monkey's what happens, and then wonder why people then don't want to help them or do other stuff afterwards. It's because you haven't, they don't, you have to, be big, just small gestures, small little, a bar of chocolate. It's 50 words now, right? Something small just to say thank you means as much to people as anything else. And that is what I mean by empathetic. You put yourself in that person's shoes, you're thinking like them. That's what I mean.
That's the classic definition, isn't it? So you always put yourself in their shoes. And for me, yeah, that's something that what you're suggesting there. It's not the gift. It's not the gift itself, is it? It is that you are gifting. It's that you thought. It's thoughtfulness, and that's gonna land. It's
gonna make that person go, okay, they appreciated me, okay, and that's going to go a long way, to help you with that person and other similar people in the future to grow and build. And it's those small points that I think are. And when I look at great leaders, I mean, my business partner, Matt Garman, talks a lot about leadership. And it's funny, a good friend of mine who sold his company a number of years ago, he used to say that they built up a 150 people business. The things that they did that was the most popular activities were they used to buy boxes of Freddo bars. The little years ago, you might remember Freddo bars. Freddo bars.
They're an indicator of inflation now.
Exactly. When they were like 30p at the time, they're probably but anyway, so they used to buy boxes of these Freddo bars. And every time someone, done something in the company, wherever they were in the company, there'd be a little Freddo on their desk with a little note saying, I really appreciate what you did with this. And they used to say that alone, that small gesture, made people run through brick walls for them.
And so perhaps in this, we could go really down this whole thing about the two sides, the human side, the AI side, the robot side of this. People on the robot side are trying to smash out the numbers, aren't they? They're trying to make it so mechanical, so predictable, so automated. That don't pick up on Freddo moments, does it? Whereas the human goes, ooh, that's a Freddo, isn't it? I could just drop that in there because that's the right thing. And it's hyper-personalized because you've thought, you've listened, you've really connected with that person.
You have it. And look, if your business does volume sales, if you're selling fidget spinners or pens or whatever else, then you probably don't need this type of sales approach, right? That's why I'm not probably the right person for them. But if you're selling a high value service, and take the stuff that, sort of stuff that, I might be like 20, 30, 30K, 40K upwards a year, right? Those small little gestures that you can do can make the difference. And again, I talked to you about prospecting. So one of the things I talk a lot about is how do you cold prospect in those environments, okay? Oh, I want to send an email to 10,000 people. Okay. Okay. The robot's going to do that better than you right now, okay? There's a system that's going to do that better than you. But if you've identified there's 10 potential prospects that are really suitable for you, and you can do a bit of research and investigation and have a look into their world a little bit and spot maybe a challenge or an issue, and then send them something that says, hey, Fred, look, I didn't want to be that person that's pointing something out, but I've noticed that something on your website that could cause a challenge. Here's how you could fix it. By the way, I love the rest of the site you've got. I think it's great, but here's also a couple of other ideas you could use. And you send that to that person, And then you follow up with a call, say, hey, Fred, it's James here. I sent you that document. I know you got lots on, but I wanted just to share a couple of things. I'm really wanted to make sure that those things have been made aware of. That person's going to think, oh, who's this guy? All right. And then suddenly you get another conversation that says, hey, I've just also spotted something else. I just want to help you with this. Don't care if you don't use me or not. Just fix these. You don't hurt your business. You're more inclined to go, oh, this person, okay, I quite like this guy. Who is this person? Rather than being in just another notch on a bedpost. And that's what I mean by personalized, engaged, outreach, interaction. It doesn't have to cost a lot. It can be small things you can do with a target group of people that can make a big difference in opening doors. And once you open the door, you then use your emotional intelligence to go through it if there is an opportunity.
Love that. So prospecting, emotional intelligence kicks in.
Yep.
Let's just quickly spin through a sales process and a very, very simple one. So we've got in front of somebody, right? We're now talking to them again, emotional intelligence. How are we using that in, let's say, that first meeting?
First meeting, all I would be doing is, again, one of my biggest frustrations I ever have with salespeople is thinking that a first meeting is the chance to pitch. It's fucking not. Stop pitching on the first meeting. Please just use your ears and one mouth. Start asking some questions, being emotionally intelligent enough. And even a simple thing like this, really great to have some time together. We've both really got lots going on. What will make the next 30 minutes useful for you? What prompted you to want to open up this conversation and have this meeting? And I can then make sure I share with you something that's relevant to you that'll make it valuable for you. So to me, the first meeting is always about finding out more, but also being prepared to go the other way. So I will always have that element of emotional intelligence. I may not be right for you. We may not be right for you. This is exploratory. We're opening up some options. If it turns out that we offer A and you need A, hey, let's have a conversation. But let's just see where we both are. And when I call it diffusing the bomb. When that first meeting is where people's backs are up with what I already sold to. Diffuse the bomb, right? You've got to diffuse. You've got to make that person want to open up and connect with you and have a conversation with you. And that comes again from your self-awareness and your self-control, resisting the ability to pitch and to talk about what you do. So at that stage there, and then once you then got through the funnel, okay, I've now carried on the second meeting to the third meeting. Well, that's again where most salespeople go into, I'm going to sell mode. Okay, well, no, I always talk about, I have a lapse model: listen, ask, probe, summarize. Now I'm digging into pain. Now I'm digging into what's driving the agenda for these people. What's really causing it? What's the real driver? Go back to my CEO meeting I had the other day. There was a lot of superficial things that were going on, but from probing questions, and I was able to identify, now there's the 4 or 5 things over there that are really nibbling his buttons. Okay, fine. Right, now those are in the locker for me to bring out at the right time and share in when I need to. And that's the difference. And then at that point, I always think people's sales is really simple. It's right. There's a problem or desire. Okay. 4th phase of sales that I talk about: problem or desire. People only buy because they've either got an issue or there's something they want to achieve. And it's 7 out of 10 people will buy from pain. Understanding, which is where you should spend 70% of the sales process, understanding where they're at, what's going on, what's driving. I have a little phrase called PIP: paid, impact, and priority. Where are you at in those areas? And then the final 2 are really easy. It's then they're looking for, okay, how you solve it, okay, which is the belief. What's the belief? Can you give them some belief that your solution can turn the problem, get the problem to go away? And the final thing is then trust. Okay, do they trust you to make it happen? And that's where you then show who you've done it for before. And I always say to customers and people that work with me, if you put that prospect in a time machine, like Michael Back to the Future and Michael J. Fox, and you put them in a time machine 12 months from now, and they could see that your solution to fix their issue, they'd buy it straight away. It's just the fact they don't believe it and they don't trust you enough to believe it. So you've got to bring that to them. And that requires self-awareness and self-control and all those things we just talked about.
Brilliant. It does. It manifests every part of the process, isn't it? Every part, all the way through.
It is. And it's critical, and it also comes into that point around closing. Everyone talks about closing, right? Of course, we all love to close, but closing's a natural thing. Closing's a natural process, right? Some people that try and close, I think people that try and close before they've gone through the process and the things they need to, just show a lack of self-awareness to me.
It is, isn't it? It's like, don't. Now you're starting me on the, can you do a closing skills course? It's like, no, that's never, ever what you need. In fact, you're asking, it's probably likely to talk.
People out there will talk about, ask for the close or whatever else, and it's fine. But it's okay to qualify. It's okay to be, I'm okay with qualifying, but even then, sometimes qualification needs emotional intelligence, right? I mean, I'll give you a story of a networking group, emotional intelligence, where this guy literally came into a networking group, and this came from a member of a group called Network My Club. This guy came into a conversation and basically started talking to this lady, and this lady had just started up her PA business, her virtual PA business. And she basically was a bit nervous. The first time she'd been in doing this sort of stuff. And the guy basically had a conversation with her, found out she was a small one-person business and binned her straight away, pretty much. Like, in the networking environment, binned her straight away. And ironically enough, he sold, classic case of where salespeople get it badly wrong. Ask one question, no, you're not for me. You're not where I need, and bin them off. And he sells into financial services. But what he forgot to mention, we realized, was that lady was the CEO, so was the PA to a senior VP at a large bank before she set up her own company. So her contact book of people that would have been perfect for them to sell to was there, right? But because he binned her off, because he didn't have the self-awareness, and that he wasn't curious, lost that opportunity. And that's what I mean by being self-aware and being able to build relationships and be humble and human. Yeah, to me, that's where a lot of salespeople really get it wrong.
It does. And the other thing, our qualification, it takes two to tango. And we're assessing at this stage is actually, if we're going into full-on business relationship here, we're going to work together, but we just don't really click.
Yeah.
It happens.
Okay.
That should be part of the qualification process. I
would totally agree with you. If you can't give your best to someone, then ultimately, and I always think it's the phone conversation call, right? When they phone up and pick up, phone on your phone, do you go, oh yeah, I can't wait to speak, look forward to speak to them, or do you go, oh, it's them? Okay. And there are a few people we all had that you go, oh, God, not them. And you go, actually, I don't want to take this call. And if that's the case, then what are you doing working with them?
You feel it yourself, don't you? You feel it in your stomach. Like, oh, that is a way that our emotions are trying to express themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, we could go long into the night on this, I suspect.
You could.
But you've given us some really good food for thought there. AI is here.
Of course.
Yes. Embrace it. Yes. But we're not going to lose the human side, are we? In fact, this could be our differentiator.
Well, again, I think it is. Again, what's the role for you? Again, there's a few podcasts and videos that I can listen to that talks about by 2045, none of us are going to need jobs. We're all good feeling by that stage. I'll be 70 and hopefully I'll be nearly on the way out by then. But the reality is, you got to define your place and where you work out where your place is. And final thing on this, I mentor some investment managers of an investment management firm, and previously they've always picked stocks and all this sort of stuff. And I've said to them, all of them, if you think your goal in the next 2 years is to continue to be a stock picker, I said, you're wrong. So your job's to be the money person. Your job's to be the person that people speak to you about and have a query about money, and they go, I can trust Fred, and pick up the phone and speak to Fred. You're not going to know the best stock because there's a computer right now that's doing all that. Okay, that's only going to get exponentially worse. But what a computer's not going to be able to do is have a soft emotion or softer skills, emotion intelligence skills conversation with your sons and daughter about money and how you don't want to leave them all the money. Right? Now that is a skill for someone to have that is a different, and again, no robot's going to do that anytime soon.
I think you're right there. I think you're right. Mate, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. As I say,
you're welcome.
I think we barely scratched the surface. We might have to do around 2, 3, 4, 5.
Always up for that. Always up for that.
So where do people find you? Where can they get in touch? You mentioned your podcast and stuff. I can drop a link to that. Is that the best place?
If you look at any social media channel, go to James White Sales. People always think actually my name is James White Sales rather than James White and then Sales at the end. Mainly because there's
is it not?
And exactly, and mainly because there's an NFL running back and a theologian, some guy that sells juices in the UK with James White's name. So look, if you search James White Sales anywhere, LinkedIn tends to be where I do a lot of stuff, but on any social channels, always great to connect with people if they find it helpful and useful. Go to jameswhite.business. There's loads of resources and materials on there as well, and my YouTube channel again, James White Sales. So anywhere they want to connect is great to. And if I can help people, give them, share them some ideas, or the podcast, again, that's my passion. And I truly mean this. Chances of me working with them are probably less than 1%, right? But if I can help make an impact in their world and get a result or win a deal somewhere, then I've gone to bed a happy man.
Yeah, no, with you on that one, mate. With you on that. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
Mate, appreciate it. Thanks, Fred. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.